Are you ready for some football? A Monday night party. After a weekend watching everyone else play, the Irish finally take their place in the prime time spotlight.
That's why you come to Notre Dame. You know, everyone will be watching. It's going to be a great opportunity for us.
Great opportunity for us to show who we are as a team.
A great opportunity to put last year's college football playoff loss behind them.
Been waiting ever since that Cotton Bowl, itching to get back on the field.
Itching to start a new journey toward the sport's promised land. And to end it this time with golden results.
We got a taste of what it's like to be in the playoffs. I want to win the darn thing.
Tonight, the race begins with a first-ever trip to the Derby City. The Irish visit the Louisville Cardinals with big hopes they don't stumble coming out of the gate. So the countdown crew's all settled. The time is right. We're about to see if the Irish and all their rowdy friends have a happy Monday night.
Live from Louisville, Kentucky, and the WNDU studios, this is 16 News Now's Countdown to Kickoff.
You are looking live at Cardinal Stadium in Louisville, where the hometown Cards, owners of the longest losing streak in college football, hope to end the season's first weekend by snapping that streak and shocking number 9 Notre Dame. Of course, Brian Kelly's crew has no interest in that storyline. His Irish arrive in Louisville on a mission to return to the playoff, and nowhere in their plans is stumbling on the road tonight. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to 16 News Now's Countdown to Kickoff. I'm WHME Sports Director Chuck Freeby. Let's get right to the countdowns. Mark Skoll Jr., he joins us live in Louisville. And Mark, the question on so many of our minds, can the Irish return to the college football playoff?
Chuck, the only way that's going to happen is if the Irish are likely to match that perfect regular season record from a ago, and there's going to be some tough road obstacles in their way. The trip to Georgia in 3 weeks jumps off the page. The two teams have a recent history, a hard-hitting 1-point UGA win in South Bend 2 years ago, and don't forget the Dogs felt like the Irish took their playoff spot last year. Then there's the mid-season trip to rival Michigan and the season-ending voyage to Stanford. Tough task, but the Irish feel ready for the test.
We were right there. We tasted, we're a game away from a national championship, so guys are hungry, guys are ready. So I feel like this group of guys, a very talented group of people, so we can really go out there and show the world who we're truly about and what we can do.
The play is an exclusive party, but luckily for the Irish, it's one with a lot of return guests. Clemson and Alabama have both made trips to the college football playoff in each of the last 4 seasons, while Oklahoma has made it back to the national semifinal in 3 of the past 4 seasons. So we'll see if the Notre Dame is ready to join that elite group.
Well, Mark, there is no question the elite unit of the Irish heading into the season is the offense, and it is not far-fetched to think this talented group could set the all-time Notre Dame scoring record. Quarterback Ian Book enters year 2. He has a bunch of guys to rely on, a very talented offensive line. Plus playmakers Chase Claypool, Chris Fink, Jafar Armstrong, and Tony Jones Jr. are all back too.
Every time we've had scrimmage, we've made some explosive plays. You guys got to see really one of our practices. Every time they touch the ball, they go in the end zone, whether it's 40 yards or wherever the ball is placed for that team setting. So just try to instill just a mindset that every time you touch it, we want to score.
Now, the all-time Notre Dame scoring record is 445 points, set twice recently in 2017 and 2015. The touchdown record is 59. That was set in 1991. Now, Mark, we know the Irish will score a lot again this year. The question is, will the defense stop other teams from racking up the points too?
Chuck, there are some big strengths and some big unknowns for the Irish D. Let's start out with the Notre Dame defensive line. A bumper crop of talent up front led by Captain the cream, while All-American corner Julian Love is gone. The backfield is still strong, anchored by Captain Alohi Gilman and his fellow safety Jalen Elliott. But the linebacking core is inexperienced. Tavon Coney and Drew Tranquil are gone, and that puts a lot of pressure on the guys put in their place.
We have the people we need to do it, and we believe in the guys that we have. I have to do a good job of putting them in good positions, and I have to do a good job of accentuating their strengths in game planning. And if I'm able to do that, I have complete faith in their ability to go out there and finish.
Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah are set to get their first career starts at Notre Dame tonight, but they aren't the only ones with big shoes to fill.
Big shoes. I see what you did there, Skoll. The Irish have a new kicker and a new punter tonight. Kicker Jonathan Dorr and punter Jay Bramblett replaced the sure-footed Justin Yoon and Tyler Newsome, guys the Irish counted on for years. The Irish coaches say they've gone out of their way to put Dorr and Bramblett in pressure-filled situations to get them ready.
Look, you're replacing two of the best in the history of the program, so we don't expect them to be the next Justin Yoon. We don't expect them to be the next Tyler Newsome. We just need them to do their jobs to the best of their ability, and we'll clean up from there.
Now the names of the guys set to return kicks for the Irish, much more familiar. Captains Chris Fink and Lohi Gilman lead the depth chart for punts. The veteran running back Jafar Armstrong handles kickoff returns with freshman Kyron Williams. And Mark, their head coach, is certainly inching towards some rarefied Irish air.
Chuck, only Rockne, Leahy, Era, and Lou have had more seasons coaching at Notre Dame than Brian Kelly, and the Irish head coach reaches a decade coaching the Irish tonight as they begin his career, or the season, with Louisville. In my one-on-one sit-down with Coach Kelly, we talked about that milestone and a whole lot more.
Brian, this is your 10th season at Notre Dame. Has it been everything you expected it would be?
Probably and more. Yeah, 10 years at Notre Dame, a lot of things happened, a lot of good things, a lot of great memories, and more to come. So excited about this season. This football team is going to be a fun team to watch, and looking forward to the opener against Louisville.
So what would you say has been the biggest thing that you've learned about yourself over the last 9 seasons?
Well, I think you always have to be learning, educate yourself, self-examination. It's always about being able to better yourself as a leader, as a head coach, as a person. And I think, just knowing that you haven't learned everything. I'm going on my 30th year, I'm still learning. So I think that's probably the most important thing.
For the first time in your Notre Dame career, you're coming off of back-to-back double-digit win seasons. Do you feel like the program is the best it's ever been under your leadership?
Well, if you just use that as the means, I think you probably would. But I think the program has solidified itself. 3 out of the last 4 years, we've won 10 games or more. The program's in great shape. It's going to continue to be a national presence, and now I think it's just a matter of duplicating that year in and year out.
In your introductory press conference back in 2009, you shared some memories about how you would listen to Notre Dame football games on the way back home from church, that you would watch the Fighting Irish on TV, and that being the head coach at Notre Dame was always a dream. What do you dream about now?
National championship. That's it. There's only one thing, is to bring Notre Dame fully back to where it was, and that's why I took the job, and that's why Jack Swarbrick hired me, was to bring Notre Dame football back to its prominent place in college football. I think we've positioned ourselves there now. Now it's really to solidify ourselves in that position by winning the national championship.
Well, 10 years hasn't changed one thing. That answer and the chase for a title is clearly, like Bob Seger would tell you, still the same. So the national championship is again the Irish goal. To make that happen, they have to make the playoff first, and that is the topic of tonight's Lock Monday Auto Group Irish fan poll on WNDU.com. We want to know, will Notre Dame return to the college football playoff this season? Right now, it's very close. 48% of you say yes, book the tickets. 52% of you say no. You still have time to weigh in the Lock Monday Auto Group Irish fan poll on WNDU.com. We'll have those final results in about 40 minutes here on The Countdown. We are just getting going on the season opening edition of The Countdown. Up next, it's recently rare but very welcome news for Irish fans. There's no question who the starting quarterback is this season. Ian Book starts year 2 leading the offense. We look at what to expect from him. And here's your first Subway trivia question of the night. When was the last time Notre Dame started a season on a weeknight? The answer when the countdown rolls back from Louisville and the Bend in 2 minutes.
Here is your Subway trivia answer.
The last time Notre Dame started a season on a weeknight, Thursday, September 5th, 1996. That night, the Irish were a few hours south on I-65 from where they are tonight, visiting Vanderbilt in Nashville. Lou's lads eked out a 14-7 win over the Doors to start his final season leading the Irish. It was the second time in 7 years Notre Dame started on a Thursday, also getting a 36-13 win over Virginia in the 1989 Kickoff Classic. On the first day of fall camp, Brian Kelly joked he didn't know what it felt like to have a returning starting quarterback. This year, much to the relief of the Irish faithful, he's finally got one with Ian Book. The Countdown's Megan Smedley is here now with the sky-high expectations for number 12.
Chuck, Ian Book hasn't taken a snap in 2019 season yet, but he's already racked up some honors. He's on the watch list for the Maxwell, Davey O'Brien, and Walter Camp Awards. He's getting a whole lot of preseason respect. Just don't expect Book to rest on that.
Still feel like I got like a chip on my shoulder. I want to prove myself every single day, and that probably won't change. It won't change.
Ian Book is coming into his own as he starts a season as Notre Dame's starter for the first time. He spent his offseason finessing his skills with QB royalty at the Manning Passing Academy and working to improve with his quarterbacks coach, Tommy Rees.
The next step is, for him to get through progressions without, trying to get out of the pocket all the time. You don't want to take that game away from him, but you also want him to see, hey, if you get through mentally quicker, there are some good things happening where we can get the ball to.
Book threw for 2,600 yards and 19 touchdowns in 2018. That impressive work has earned him a Captain C on his jersey.
The way he's adapted well with some new guys playing a lot more reps and, just feeling their tempo and knowing when they're going to be able to anticipate getting in and out of their cuts, especially the young receivers. I think he's adapted really well to those guys and just his overall leadership and confidence.
And he's had to adapt throughout camp as injuries keep changing the weapons he has at his disposal.
Some of those other guys that have gotten reps in there are guys that he's repped with quite a bit if you go back to last year where he wasn't always with the first team. So I think there is, a comfort level there with him and the other guys.
Of course, there's a comfort between Book and the veterans, too.
Just that confidence that he has and getting some timing down and some rhythm down with him and, really working the game plan from day one with him and knowing what we'll be doing. So he's been doing a great job.
And Book's confidence is growing.
I think it's going to be a big year for me. I'm excited, and, I always say that, I'm just excited. And I don't really know how else to put it, but I'm ready to, go showcase it out there on Monday, and especially with this team.
Brian Kelly says he just likes the presence that Book brings to the field, making sure the entire offense is on the same page.
You were at a lot of practices this fall. What impressed you the most about Ian Book?
His leadership skills. I know he's got that Captain C, but you see him after every play talking things over with Tommy Rees, talking things over with the younger backs, the younger quarterbacks. He just wants to lead the team as best he can.
All right, thanks a lot, Megan. The first quarter of Countdown complete. A ton of ground still to cover on this edition. Up next, it's the Irish Illustrated Report. And as Brian Kelly enters year 10, we asked Tim Priester how the Irish coach has changed the most in that decade. And you can subscribe to Irish Illustrated. It is the #1 source for Notre Dame sports online. Just head to irishillustrated.com and click on Join to find the best plan for you.
Back on the countdown, it's time for the Irish Illustrated Report. We have two Tims for the price is one, Tim Priester and Tim O'Malley with Irish Illustrated. We'll start with Tim Priester. Tim, you've been around him for nearly a decade. How has Brian Kelly evolved or changed over the last 10 seasons?
Well, a lot happened after the 2016 season. A lot had to happen after the 2016 season. 4-8. He got together with Jack Swarbrick. Irish Illustrated recently had an interview with Jack Swarbrick, and he talked about they put their heads together. They agreed on about 85% of the things and were able to work through the other 15%. But he's delegated. He brought in all new coordinators. One of the things they were worried about was the chemistry of the staff after the 2016 season. Obviously, they got rid of Brian Van Gorder during that season, but they feel like they've corrected it, and Brian Kelly's kind of pulled back and let his coordinators coordinate.
And they've certainly looked very good. Now, Tim O'Malley, for the Irish fan who wants something to worry about, what is one thing that these fans should worry about for the upcoming season?
Well, it's something that's always bothered me. It's math. And
Obviously, we're having a little bit of a problem with our live feed from Louisville. Just a reminder, you can subscribe to Irish Illustrated. It is the #1 source for Notre Dame sports online. All you have to do is head to irishillustrated.com, click on Join, and find the best plan for you. Well, the countdown continues to roll on, hopefully from both Louisville and South Bend. Up next, you'll meet some of the Irish faithful whose faith sets them apart. They share their, shall we say, conventional wisdom with us. This piece is second to none when the countdown returns in 2 minutes.
Back on the countdown with the Irish Illustrated report. Sorry for those technical difficulties, but Tim, who's one player or what's one part of this team that Irish fans should be worrying about in the 2019 season?
Yeah, I think it's the change from Drew Tranquil and Tavon Coney inside, those two standouts, to the 6 inside linebackers they're going to have to try to replace them this year. We believe it's going to be Drew White and Asmar Bilal tonight, but the auditions, the evaluations aren't over, and the reason those two did not rotate much last year, they were too good to come off the field. They don't have that right now at inside linebacker.
That's definitely going to be a tough one. Now, for tonight's game, Tim, what's something that the Notre Dame football team should be worrying about with Louisville? I know they're coming off of the longest losing streak in college football, but what's something that Notre Dame should be worried about tonight?
Well, they were awful last year, obviously, but they are very good in special teams, or at least they were in punt returns last year. It's about the only thing Louisville was good at. Scott Satterfield, however, their head coach, has always had good special teams, and they were good last year. I think he's a really good coach. He's only 46 years old. He won 41 games in 4 years, the last 4 years at Appalachian State. I think he'll have Louisville competitive, whereas last year they weren't at all.
I definitely think so, too. Now, for Tim O'Malley, this year, who's that breakout star you think for Notre Dame?
Well, I think Irish fans got a glimpse of him last year. Jafar Armstrong, he's a wide receiver in a running back's body. He's got a full year converting to the position now. I think the position took its toll a little bit on him physically last year. He's their best pure runner, but he's also a weapon in the passing game, not just out of the backfield, but he can split out and go downfield and beat defensive backs. I think he will really emerge here in the first month with Cole Kmet and Michael Young out.
Now, quickly, for both of you, Notre Dame made it to the college football playoff for the first time in program history last year. Do you think they can get back? Tim Priester, we'll start with you.
They're capable of it, but every close game went their way last year. I have a hard time seeing this team as good as last year's without Tillery, Coney, Tranquil, Love, Bonner. That's a big chunk, especially out of the middle of your defense. I think it'll be difficult, but Brian Kelly has depth now and has a better football team than he's had at any point.
O'Malley, what about you real quick?
Yeah, I think there's divergent paths, so they both start in Athens. You either got to beat Georgia or lose in a classic and then run the table. I think a bad showing at Georgia would end it for them.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. Tim O'Malley, Tim Priester, that is your Irish Illustrated report. Chuck, I'll send it back to you.
All right, thanks, Mark. Notre Dame is obviously getting plenty of support tonight in the Ville. The thousands of the Irish faithful are decked out in their best blue, gold, and green. They've made the 4.5-hour trip south. They have high hopes of seeing their Irish head home 1-0. Now, we know Notre Dame means more than just football to many Irish fans. The faith that fandom is built on sets Notre Dame really apart from any other school in the country. The Countdown's Lindsey Stone is live on campus at the Grotto tonight. And Lindsey, you spent some time with a few diehards who break, shall we say, the conventional wisdom of your typical college football fan.
Yeah, Chuck, that's exactly right. In fact, I say they actually offer some conventional wisdom. Now, Notre Dame fans tonight are going to be watching from basements, from bars, and maybe somewhere that you don't quite expect. You see, Notre Dame is a university that's built on 3 things: tradition, football, and faith. And no one understands that better than the women that took a vow to love God and always love the Irish.
You should hear the nuns yell. It gets pretty loud.
Echoing through the halls of the Church of Our Lady of Loretto
Who can holler?
are the sounds of Notre Dame's biggest cheerleaders.
What I like about most is that they win. They have a good team. They have a good spirit. They play as a team.
Sister Joan and Sister Carolita have both been dedicated Fighting Irish fans since they were young.
I lived here in northern Indiana, and so my father was a great Notre Dame fan.
The 2 women took a vow to serve God through every new twist and turn life had to offer. It's that dedication and loyalty that shaped their fanhood for Notre Dame. Through thick
It's tough to have to walk off that field and not go out on top.
and thin.
Yes! Touchdown Irish! Incredible grab!
The sisters aren't the only nuns in town cheering Notre Dame on.
Yeah, I get a little carried away.
Sister Barbara Ann isn't an ordinary fan.
I am probably one of the biggest fans of Notre Dame football.
And she has years of collectibles to prove it.
I think the Kelly green, looks good with my gray hair. I like that hat very much. I've had that the longest of anything. My favorite thing is what we call my famous music box. And I love that. I love that music box. And
the famous treasure even landed her a spot in NBC's national promo for last season's Notre Dame-Michigan game.
I became a Notre Dame fan once I entered the convent because you can hardly live in South Bend and not be a Notre Dame fan.
Sister Barbara Ann had me join her for a toast for her favorite team with special Franciscan wine, or what we call water.
I think we need to give a toast to the Irish. Yeah, so here's...
Go Irish.
Go Irish, win big. All right.
And just like the Fighting Irish football team, these loyal fans have their own game day preparations, including a uniform.
I wear it every game day, both for the boys and for the girls basketball team.
A plan for the game.
Play well, that they pay attention to what they're doing, and for them to be active in the first quarter, not the third.
And a chant.
Go Irish!
And both convents are tuned in right now watching Countdown to Kickoff. And so hello to all of you watching right now. And of course, Chuck, they're going to be gathered tonight watching the entire game, cheering very loudly for their beloved Irish.
Well, Lindsay, you could say that rooting for the Irish has become a habit for them. We are at the halfway point of the countdown with so much left to bring you. Up next, it is Quick Hits to get you ready for tonight's game, and that includes a look at a freshman turning a whole lot of heads so far this fall. It's when the countdown rolls back. 2 minutes. Back on the countdown, we start the second half with some quick hits. The whole crew here with a few points you need to know before you watch the Irish tonight. Megan gets us going with a look at a freshman who's been turning a lot of heads all throughout fall camp.
You're going to want to remember his name, Kyle Hamilton, and if his performance during fall camp is any indication, he will not be throwing away his shot. Hamilton's been turning heads throughout fall camp thanks to his impressive skill set. The 6'4" freshman out of Atlanta, Georgia is currently listed as the free safety backup to Alohi Gilman. Hamilton snapped a handful of interceptions already during practice, catching the eyes of his teammates, the media, and of course his coaches.
As much as I've been trying to tamp down the, Kyle Hamilton for Heisman, he's a really good player. He's a really good player that has showed up every day in some fashion. He has a unique skill set.
He can play out there in some one-on-one situations and jump balls and have the ability also to cover a guy in a slot. So it is a unique skill set.
Terry Joseph says when he recruited Hamilton and he saw that skill set, he thought to himself, oh my God, how can I keep this from the rest of the world? A special safety just looking for his time to shine. Now on to another fresh face on the opposite side of the ball and on the sidelines. Let's head to Lindsay on campus.
All right, thanks, Megan. And yeah, Lance Taylor is the new Irish running backs coach. He's replacing Autry Denson, who took the head coach job at Charleston Southern. Now, Taylor is no stranger to a high expectation. He's a former Alabama wide receiver and spent 2 seasons coaching at his alma mater under Nick Saban before moving on to coach at the NFL. But Taylor says even growing up in Alabama, he still had a respect for Notre Dame, and it's a program he's now proud to be a part of.
Notre Dame is a really special place, and I felt that when I came here on my interview, it really felt like home to me. Even growing up in Alabama, there's a great respect for the program that is Notre Dame, and so I felt that here, and I just felt like it really fit my belief system. It really fit who I was. To me, it was a great combination of a couple of different places that I've been.
Taylor also says it's unique because Notre Dame is unlike any other. There's a combination of football and high academics. He says that's played a major role when it comes to recruiting people to come here because, as he said, there really is no other place like Notre Dame. Now I'm going to send things right back to the studio with Chuck.
Well, Lindsay, before tonight, no Notre Dame football player has ever stepped inside Cardinal Stadium for a football game. But one member of the Irish staff knows this place oh so well. Notre Dame offensive coordinator Chip Long started off his coaching career in Louisville under Bobby Petrino as a grad assistant. Long was told he was needed at Louisville the day he was graduating from the University of North Alabama. So he skipped graduation and headed to his first job. He says it's one of the best decisions he ever made.
Just luck, be honest with you. Sent my resume out to just about every Division I school when I got done playing, and Louisville was the only one who called. It was a great experience being surrounded by so many good offensive minds. You know, Jeff Brom was on that staff. You had Mike Summers, Paul Petrino, and obviously Bob. So it was a good way to be, you know, indoctrinated in the profession.
Long says the offensive mindset he has today evolved from his early beginnings at Louisville. Now, while Long will be a little more limited in what he can throw at the Cardinals tonight, because there are fewer people that he can have Ian Book throw to. When the Irish were down at Culver Academy, they lost tight end Cole Kmet to a broken collarbone. Kmet is considered Notre Dame's top receiving tight end. He's got the ability to stretch a defense deep as well as be a possession receiver and blocker. Then on August 17th, practicing inside the stadium, receiver Michael Young suffered the same injury, broken collarbone. Young had such a good fall camp, he was considered the favorite to start as Notre Dame's third receiver this season. And these things come in threes, right? Receiver Kevin Austin suspended for the season. He violated university rules. Austin added an element of speed to the receiving corps. So who fills in? Well, the veteran Brock Wright gets the start at tight end tonight. The elusive Lawrence Keys will start as the third receiver. Now, Brian Kelly has preached a next man in mentality. That's one of the tough to miss messages if you spend any time around the coach. Another common phrase from the Goog, and another thing we've heard a lot, is just how close the Irish are to that next level. That's where Mark Skoll continues his one-on-one conversation with Brian Kelly tonight.
Going back to last season, how often do you think about the loss to Clemson in the college football playoff?
Not often. I mean, we took a lot of things from that, both externally, internally, operationally. We did a lot of things that I think we're better as a football team now, and players have improved from that game. Coaches have improved from that game. But we don't think about it. We don't live in the past. We're in the present, and we took those things from that particular game.
After the Clemson game, you said that you didn't feel at all like you did after the Alabama loss in the national championship. You said that this team is on the brink. What makes this team different from the 2012 team? Well,
I think physically, you know, we're physically much more mature. Our depth is different. I think in all those fashions, a much more mature quarterback. We played with a freshman quarterback. I just think overall the development of the program, the infrastructure, there are just so many things that the university has invested so much more in this football program. I just think, you know, it's the development of it in so many different phases that puts us in a different position.
You said that it took you 3 to 4 years to watch tape from the Alabama game. Have you gone back and watched the Clemson game at all?
No, I haven't touched that, and nor do I need to. I think we've got exactly what we needed out of that, and know the direction that we needed our program to go after that. So no need to really watch anything as much as learn and grow from it.
It seems like the national storyline for Notre Dame is that you guys don't show up in big games, but then you look at Alabama, they lost to Clemson by more in the national championship. Do you think it's fair that Notre Dame has that reputation, and how do you shake off that storyline?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to play big games, and we're going to play against quality opposition. I mean, I think if you look at, you know, who we're playing, you know, you're going to have two great teams playing. And yeah, we'd like to win some of those games, but we know the quality opposition that we go against, and we must have done some really good things to get there. Now we'd like to win a couple of those games because they're going to mean a lot when we win them, because they're generally for national championships. And so we're going to get another opportunity, and when we do, we're going to make the best of it.
So we are now less than a half hour away from the season's first test towards that goal, and the season opening edition of the Countdown keeps rolling along. Up next, what's new and what's familiar on the Irish defense. I'll take an in-depth look at some big holes Notre Dame needs to fill and some stars from last season the Irish are counting on to do even more. And here's your second Subway trivia test of the night. We're Already told you the last time the Irish began the season on a weeknight. But when was the last time Notre Dame started the year on a Monday night? The answer when the countdown rolls back in 2 minutes.
Here is your Subway trivia answer.
You have to go back pretty far to find the last time the Irish started the season on a Monday night. It's September 15th, 1975, Dan Devine's first game as head coach. That night also marked the first time Notre Dame and Boston College ever met on the gridiron. The Irish won 17-3 at the old Schaefer Stadium in Foxborough, Massachusetts, on their way to an 8-3 season. And you know, that was the second year in a row the Irish started on a Monday. They beat Georgia Tech 31-7 the year before. Now, one thing these two teams have in common tonight, both Notre Dame and Louisville have fired Brian Van Gorder as a defensive coordinator in the last 3 years. Now, we don't know how much Louisville's going to improve. We do know the Irish defense has improved dramatically, and now the question is, can it stay that way? Last year, the Irish defense was like an Oreo. The best stuff was in the middle. Now, with Tavon Coney and Drew Tranquill gone, there is a giant hole at linebacker that isn't filled easily. In fact, it'll take about 6 people.
The thing I'm excited about is, we have a talented group that everyone has the ability to have a role in the game.
Notre Dame's defensive depth is the best it has been in the Kelly era, so mixing and matching personnel won't just occur at linebacker. It will also happen on the defensive line, where the Irish have an embarrassment of riches at defensive end.
All of us are very capable of going in and playing a pretty prominent role in this defense. So, I mean, that just shows how much we're willing to work. It doesn't matter what your role is, as long as you embrace that and know that you have to do that in order for us to be successful.
The secondary is a veteran group with returning starters in cornerback Troy Pride and safeties Jalen Elliott and Alohi Gilman. But they admit they were helped by last year's experienced linebackers, so they have to bring the new guys along.
So now, with a whole new linebacker core, you got to see and build that chemistry and find that confidence within each linebacker, and that's tough and frustrating at times. But through fall camp, I think we've got to a good spot now.
On Media Day, Brian Kelly said the recipe for success for this defense is very simple.
We're going to have to play with a physicality, and you really can't see that right now.
The Irish have had 12 days to find it. We'll see if they filled the Oreo with good stuff, or like the cream filling, they get licked. How important is stopping the run for this team? Notre Dame is 44-8 under Kelly when they outrush their opponents, 14-26 when they don't. Might not be a problem tonight, but something to watch this season. Up next, all you need to know about tonight's opponent. We are scouting the Cardinals with Kent Taylor, the man who covers them from our sister station in Louisville. What you should expect from the Cards in 2 minutes on the countdown.
Back on the countdown, we are scouting the Cardinals with Wave 3 Sports Director Kent Taylor. Now, Kent, what have you seen from Scott Satterfield in his first season so far, and what has really stood out to you?
Well, they preach right now attitude and effort. They know they don't have the talent to compete with a team like Notre Dame, and right now they're just trying to build a foundation for what they hope will, in a couple of years, lead to some success for this program, the kind of success that he had at Appalachian State.
How big of a game like this tonight against Notre Dame is it for Louisville?
Well, first of all, to have having grown up here, I've been in Louisville for almost 50 years, so to even have Notre Dame playing a game in Louisville is a huge deal. It's the first time Louisville's ever played a home opener hosting a team ranked. And then Notre Dame on top of it. Everybody knows the guys from Notre Dame, from here who went to Notre Dame, the Tony Drivers, the Ben Foose, the Alex Babby, James Sass, names like that. So there's a huge Catholic community here. It's a big deal.
How have you seen the atmosphere change, I guess, with a team like Notre Dame here? Has it been a lot more people than you expected?
Well, a lot of people in their seats a little earlier maybe than they would be. And other than, really, I would say the only game that would compare to this was when ESPN College Game Day came here a couple of years ago for that Florida State game that really kicked off Lamar Jackson's Heisman Trophy campaign. That's the only game that would even be in the conversation with this one.
Obviously, Louisville's coming off of one of the worst losing streaks in college football, but what can they do tonight to come out with a win against the Fighting Irish?
They'll have to not make any mistakes, not turn it over. And Scott Satterfield said, he just told me on Thursday, he was, on the staff at Appalachian State when they went to Michigan and beat them in the Big House. And he said the thing they did in that game is they scored early that allowed them to believe that they could compete. That will be important for this U of L team. Their confidence is teetering right now. They gave up, over 50 points in their last 5 games. That defense was bad. They need a confidence boost. I'm not sure this is the place for them to get it right out of the gate, though.
We'll see if it can happen tonight. We'll find out coming up in just a few minutes. Thank you, Kent, so much for the time.
Thanks for having me, Mark.
Thank you, and we will see you on the countdown back in a few minutes.
All right, thank you very much, Mark. We are now in the 4th quarter of the countdown, but you know what? We're still picking up steam. Up next, we continue our one-on-one conversation with Brian Kelly. His thoughts on why the Irish scheduled so many tough road tests this year. And what college football rule would he change? That comes your way in 2 minutes on the countdown. Here are the final results of this week's Lock Money Auto Group Irish fan poll on WNDU.com. We asked you, will Notre Dame return to the college football playoff this season? We should send it to the Electoral College. In a close vote, 49% of you are optimistic and say yes. 51% say no, you don't see it happening in back-to-back seasons. We thank you for voting in the Lock Monday Auto Group Irish fan poll on WNDU.com. Now, if you voted no, you likely have some of the tough road games ahead on your mind. Mark rejoins us now from Louisville. And Mark, I know those games were on your mind when you sat down with Brian Kelly.
You got it, Chuck. I wanted to know Kelly's thoughts about those visits to Georgia, Ann Arbor, and Palo Alto. That's where we pick up my next part of our one-on-one conversation.
You're scheduled a bunch of tough opponents on the road. You're going to Athens, Ann Arbor, wrapping up at Stanford. Why is it important to schedule difficult opponents on the road?
Well, that's what we do as an independent. We've always done that. That's the history. That's the tradition of Notre Dame football. So we're just continuing in that vein. And we want our 12 games to hold up to the 13 that somebody would play if they're their conference champion. So we don't want to hear anybody say, well, they only played 12 and they didn't play a conference championship. Well, look at our 12 against your 13. When you're playing a 1AA team or you're not playing somebody that's a Power 5. We're going to play 9 Power 5 teams. So, that's going to hold up pretty good, when all is said and done.
Is there one rule in college football that you would like to see changed?
I'm still, I don't know why we throw a kid out of the game for targeting. I think, give him a penalty, 15-yard. If he does it again, maybe it could be an ejection. But I still have a hard time throwing a kid out of the game for a targeting unless it's an intentional, kind of hit. I think losing a game in college is very difficult. I'd like us to examine that rule. I think that's kind of a strange rule. I still am not in favor of that one.
Who's a player on the team right now who's not really on a fan's radar but will be at the end of the season?
Jameer Smith. I think Jameer Smith is going to be one of those names that I think a lot of people are going to go, where did he come from at the running back position?
Right now it's rapid fire time. I'm going to rattle off some players' names and you just give me the first thing that pops in your head. Julian Okwara.
Elite pass rusher.
Okay. Chase Claypool.
Ferocious competitor.
Jafar Armstrong.
Physical running back.
Robert Hainsey.
Technician.
Alohi Gilman.
Ball hawk.
Chris Fink.
Fast.
Kyle Hamilton.
Great instincts.
Jalen Elliott.
I would say cheerleader.
Okay, and then Kyron Williams.
Versatile.
And Chuck, you mentioned it earlier, we should see the versatile freshman Williams on kickoff returns tonight.
All right, Mark, you head on up to the press box. We look forward to your coverage on 16 News Now in the morning. Up next, we've got our Irish keys to the game, X Factors, game and season predictions. It's the Four Winds Casino. What to watch for when the countdown returns in 2 minutes. We are back on the countdown with the Four Winds Casino, what to watch for. And let's give you, first of all, Mark Skoll Jr.'s key and X Factor. His key tonight, he wants to see Notre Dame dominate in the trenches. I think we all want to see that. You've got a veteran offensive line coming back. They should be able to run the football, move the football. And then on defense, you've got that defensive line with those 2 terrific defensive ends. In fact, that plays into his X factor. Khalid Kareem or Julian Okwara, he's kind of hedging his bets there a little bit as to which defensive end is going to have the better game. Really, he's going up with the one that doesn't line up against the left tackle, Mekhi Becton. Whoever doesn't line up against Becton, he thinks will have a huge game. Megan, your key and X factor.
My key to the game is the Irish want to get the ground game going. We know what Ian Book can do. We know what Chase Claypool and Chris Finn can do. Now the question is whether the offensive line can step up and provide the protection and the blocking that would allow the Irish backs to get through. Jafar Armstrong and Tony Jones Jr. both have the potential to have big years. Now my X factor is going to be Jafar Armstrong. He talked to the media a couple of weeks ago saying he loves to be able to catch those receptions. He's a converted back into the wide receiver position, that he wants to know that he wants to take the spots away from Chase Claypool. Oh my goodness.
That's all right.
There. Chuck, give me yours.
All right, key to win tonight for the Irish. Hey, this isn't the Labor Day telethon. Jerry Lewis isn't around anymore. Don't be charitable. No turnovers. You won't have any problem winning this game. And if you want an X factor, it's the aforementioned Chase Claypool, because, folks, Louisville does not have anybody who can cover him. He's too big, too strong, too good. Get the ball to the CC Rider. As for predictions, Mark Skoll Jr. has it 42-14 Irish. He has the Irish going 11-1 this season.
For the game, I got 42-17 Irish, season 9-3.
The correct answer, kids, 49-20 for the Irish tonight, and it's 10-2 on the season. That is it for the season opening edition of the Countdown. You know, Jimmy Buffett told us come Monday it would be all right. We'll see if he's correct. When the Irish and the Cardinals kick off next on ESPN. Look for highlights and reaction from Louisville tomorrow on 16 Morning News Now. Countdown back at 1:30 September 14th for the home opener with New Mexico.